those younger ones, again, well, you don't get it yet.
Yeah.
Because by the time you start enjoying the benefit of all those goodies that you see on that table, then inside you will feel that healthy, you feel like jumping up on bouncy castle. You know, some of us now, we can't jump just because maybe you have too much, I don't want to mention the food that you have inside, too much of pasta, too much of carbohydrate foods.
I had pasta last night.
You see now?
Yeah.
So I got you.
And then I met the pasta today.
Are you making another pasta today?
No, the pasta.
Oh, so you still have some left?
Not pasta, pasta.
Pasta, all right. I get you now. So, you know, when I attended this particular seminar a few years ago, I really loved it, actually. Actually, when you, don't let me talk much about it. Don't let me give away some of the tips, some of the goodies you're gonna have today. I really enjoyed it and I loved it. And I saw how you can physically use your fruits, you know, and turn into all this ice slowly without necessarily going for too much sugar. I'm like, wow, this is great. And I got so excited. I was like, when I get back home, I'm going to change all my eating habits and stuff. But you know, when you're so resolute and you're looking forward to doing something, but your old habit of eating is just staring at you on the face, you're like, you just miss it. And I tried for a while, and this is all confession between me and you. I tried a bit, but unfortunately I went back to my old eating habits. And each time I do that, you know, I eat a lot of sugar, like you and me. Don't pretend as if I'm the only one doing it. Because I'm pretty sure I'm trying more than you. You know? Oh, well, I'm talking for myself, so if you feel you're doing more. Jeff had loads of pasta, like I'm pretty sure you have a lot of cheese on it as well.
No much cheese, no.
Not much is there.
Parmesan.
You know, it's sweetness, you know, we go, and at times it's okay for you to just enjoy yourself. Add all the, you know, indulgences on your food and just have fun. It's okay. For some time, it's okay. But you know what happened to me? Sorry, don't mind my phone. Anytime I find myself going for the indulgences and all the sugars and all the extra calories, I feel guilty. Do you feel me? Because you know that, oh, even though this thing is good, but they don't necessarily are so good for your health. So today I'm just pre-warning you ahead. Because what you're going to see today and what you're going to be taught today is going to change your lifestyle for good. And I promise you, your life will not remain the same again. But in case you get home and you start seeing, you know all those your old foodies are, beckoning at you and say, come on, man. I'm warning you, it's okay to feel guilty sometime to go for what you like. But on the long run, I think what we're trying to promote this afternoon is just to stay healthy, to live healthy, and so in our mind, even if physically we don't feel like those small children jumping on those bouncy castles, mentally and within ourselves we can feel like a child, strong to go another 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, and how many years, you so desire as God keep us. So ladies and gentlemen, without wasting more time, I want to welcome Reverend Tony and Mama Tony to the house and make them welcome. You can make do with a round of applause, that's okay. Go ahead and celebrate them. And let me celebrate in the house our mayor. Welcome. Thank you for being with us. And then I'm going to hand over the microphone to our host and hostess for this afternoon. Pastor and Pastor Mrs. Udumade, please let me celebrate them. Thank you for gathering us this afternoon. So I hand over the microphone to Pastor Femi Udumade. Pastor Doctor. So that you know we are in that place.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
And you are most welcome for this health campaign. Just first and foremost, I want to quickly do a very quick introduction. We are especially privileged to have in this highly distinguished gentleman and the mayor of Skegness, Councillor Skegness. Am I correct, sir?
You are.
It's really, really a privilege to have you honoring us with your presence. And in a short while, he was going to be giving a kind of a short address, because this is the first of the kind of a health campaign that as a church we have put together, because one of our ethos as a church is that we believe in raising a holy, healthy, which is one of the seven, and highly successful people. And we felt that as a church located in Skegness as a community, we want to reach out on that health side of things so that the community will be richly blessed. Because we know, I work in the NHS, and I know the challenges that are happening within the NHS, how the NHS is struggling to meet the needs. And they are doing their best, to be honest, but then the reality is that things are we could still supplement and work together in the form of a partnership. And I also want to use this opportunity to welcome, also please let's welcome Reverend Tony Akinyemi and Pastor Tutu Akinyemi. So he's going to be, in a short while, he's going to be sharing some very powerful health informations and nuggets for us that will truly be highly blessed. I want to quickly, we also meant to this occasion actually was also meant to be graced with the presence of the MP, the Member of Parliament for the Skegness and Boston area, and in the presence of Matt Warman. But unfortunately, just about a few 2-3 weeks ago, he dropped me an email. So he had actually said he's going to be here. Promised me his word is going to be here. But unfortunately, something has cropped up and he wasn't able to do that anymore. But he has been gracious enough to send his speech and said, look, Femi, can you just read my speech on my behalf? So at some point, I'm going to be doing that to deliver the speech for MP Matt Warman. So even in his absence, please can we make him welcome? So let's just. So to be honest, I think what I'm just to give us a bit of an insight into what we're expecting today. As I said, the health campaign, the theme we have chosen for this health campaign is, is everybody able to tell me what the theme is? Oh, okay. You all registered, but then the theme was there that age is inevitable, okay? Age is inevitable, but cancer or any other chronic illness doesn't have to be. Is it gone are the days when we think that, oh well, as you are aging? In fact, in medical school I was told that, in fact, when you are given a question and they describe and they mention a 70 or 80-year-old, you know one of the options you go for is a malignancy or a cancer. But these days you find out that, thank God, is defined, it's not fitting into that mold any longer. Okay, so we want to see what are the other factors that, so in the course of Reverend Tony's presentation, we'll be hearing some things that will be very, very helpful. Let me just do a very quick introduction. Reverend Tony, of course, is an ordained minister of God, both More importantly, there's another side of him. He is a health coach, he's a health minister, he's somebody who has invested so much of his life into digging into things that will be very beneficial for health. And his own life is also a testimony to that. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, we welcome you, Reverend Tony Akiyemi. Now, we're going to make a slight adjustment in the program because there are 2 video clips that we want to play, and then that's meant to then, and after the video clip, there's going to be a presentation by Reverend Tony. But the adjustment is that we're going to have the speech, the inaugural speech by Councillor Skegness, the mayor, the honorable mayor, and after that we'll do the video clip, and then Reverend Tony Akiyemi comes up. So ladies and gentlemen, you are all welcome once again. Thank you very much. So can we want to welcome the honorable mayor of Skegness, Councillor Dennis.
Thank you very much. I don't need the microphone, sir. You're all right, my voice is loud enough. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. It's a real pleasure to come here this afternoon at the Royal Hotel on behalf of Skegness Town Council. It's a real pleasure. And when you walk in the room, see you all here and the kids bouncing about and all the noise, it was a joy. It was a joy to come. And I'm very honoured to be asked, and I hope you'll ask us again in the future. A little bit disappointed that Mr. Warman, our MP, couldn't be here, as I was with him yesterday afternoon for 2 hours bending his ear. And I thought he might be able to get today, but as it happens, he can't support it. That's a shame, but he has sent his speech. But we here in Skegness are so pleased, because we live on a coastal here with the food and the health, and it's not the best in the world. We have a lot of chronic people who come here to retire with chronic illnesses. It's very, very difficult for them. And we do need to educate them. And what we need to do, we need to educate the children. And it's very important we educate the children. And to come and sit and feel this warmth that's in this room, it's a real pleasure to be here. And it was really enlightening to come in and see all your happy faces. It's brilliant. And I wish you all the luck and everything. I hope everything works right. And I would love to see the room to be packed to the gunnels. It ought to be, because what you're trying to do is a great thing. And I would like to welcome you to Skegness, and I'd like to hope that it goes on from here. And please, should you have any more functions like this, doctors, nurses, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, please invite me as mayor. I'm pleased to support. We're so pleased. Try not to make it on a Saturday, because my wife wanted to come with me today, but she has to work on a Saturday, which is unfortunate. We should have loved to come. Once again, thank you for inviting me. Have a lovely day, and please enjoy and listen to your pastors and listen to you. God bless you. Thank you.
Can I get this stand?
Let me see if I can do with that microphone as well.
So we don't have the stand. This is terrible.
Right. I just want to quickly bring up Matt's speech, if you don't mind. Okay. So this is Matt's speech. Matt Warman, MP, Skegness in Boston. This is the speech he's asked me to graciously read on his behalf. I'm very pleased to see the Skegness Health Campaign 2018 being led by the Shepherd's Flock International Church, and I'm sorry not to be able to join you today. Ensuring that we take care of our health is vital, and I welcome that the government is helping us to do so through a range of measures, from the soft drink industry levy, cutting sugar in fizzy drinks, to a new tobacco control plan, and from the new Clear on Cancer campaign to invest £700 million in school sports and mental health. The government is making real efforts to foster a healthier society. But the government cannot do everything, and initiatives such as this, which is being launched today, are a vital part of people working together to take control of their own health. When I hosted my own older persons information fair recently, I was most struck by our vibrant local community, from bowls to running, and I hope that today's event will also be a part of initiatives to help people to take active, to stay active, whilst also meeting new friends and socializing. With new investment going into NHS and a further 20 million announced in recent weeks, I'm committed to making sure we see as much of that nationwide funding coming to Lincolnshire. But more than that, I hope we will all play our part in staying healthy too. I wish you every success with today's event and the future of the campaign. Thank you very much. Okay. Right. As I said, we're going to have two video clips. One is from somebody that we all know very well on the walls at the international, and that's by Bill Clinton, a former American president who unfortunately some years ago had a very bad heart attack that actually people thought he may never survive it. But after he had this heart attack, he resolved to make some lifestyle changes. And part of those lifestyle changes that he resolved to do is part of the things we're going to be talking about today. Maybe I'm preempting Reverend Tony. But one of the key things he resolved to do, and we'll play the video clip at some point, is that he changed his diet completely. He decided to take some things off his plate. And then also alongside that, making sure he lives a very healthy, active lifestyle. And he said since ever then, his health has taken a very positive turn. And he's now going about preaching the same message of changing your lifestyle, changing your diet, and making sure you are very healthy, to make sure you forestall some of those chronic things. In fact, in the word, you probably listen to that, he says something along this line. He said, what I could not do when I was probably about 40 years old, I'm able to do it now because I feel stronger, more energetic, more vibrant. So we'll see more of those stuffs later. So ladies and gentlemen, I just want us to welcome Reverend Tony Akiyemi. So
good afternoon. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to share a few thoughts with you. Today, we'll be talking about how to regain and retain our health. Of course, that means that those who have lost it can regain it. Those who haven't lost it can do something to retain it. So it goes for either side of the coin. A little bit about my background. As you can see there, before you wrote it next like this, there you go, yeah. You can see some red letters right beneath my name, just to give you a little background about myself. I did my BSc at the University of Ife in Nigeria, not in any of the medical sciences, but in engineering. So my first degree was in engineering, and then I did my BA degree in theology, and then I did another postgraduate diploma in nutritional consulting. So I'm a professional in 3 different disciplines that are completely unrelated. And then I'm a member of the American Association of Drugless Practitioners. So, what brought me along this journey? I started out as an engineer and practicing engineering, and then eventually went into ministry, to pastor, and then my health began to fail. I needed help. And so in the quest for recovery for my health, I began to get interested and passionate about things relating to health. And that was what led me to do my 3rd program in nutritional consulting. And that's why today I'm a bit very passionate when it comes to sharing nuggets on how to live healthy. They are born out of personal experiences and some of the trainings and research that I have personally done in the last 10 to 15 years of my life. So that's my background. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm just a health enthusiast. All right, so with that background, we go on into my presentation for today. A little disclaimer here that this seminar is not a substitute for professional medical care. If you have a medical condition, please consult your healthcare provider for proper medical attention. And this service is provided free of charge as a public service. You're free to use any of the nuggets and recommendations that I'm going to be making today on one condition, if you're willing to accept full responsibility. All right. I give you 10 nuggets, which I call food for thought, by way of opening up this discussion. Thomas Edison, we all know him. He was the inventor of the light bulb. This is what he said in the early part of the 20th century, that the doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will interest his patients in the care of the human body, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease. And by the way, the word doctor actually means teacher or coach. So the primary assignment of a true doctor is to teach the patient how to live healthy, how not to fall sick. All right, next food for thought. 2, Dr. Alexis Carrel is also a one-time Nobel Prize winner in medicine, was a medical doctor and a researcher. He also said this at the beginning of the 20th century. He was looking far ahead, probably into the 21st century, and this is what he said: unless the doctors of today become the dietitians of tomorrow, the dietitians of today will become the doctors of tomorrow. And he was seeing far ahead of his colleagues in those days. Next. And this is what I came up with. Health does not flow from a bottle or a syringe. Instead, health is largely the product of lifelong decisions and choices. The little decisions we make at the dining table in the restaurant as we live our daily lives from wake-up time to sleep time, all those little decisions accumulate together synergistically to define our health outcomes at the end of the day. And that's why it becomes imperative for us to pay attention to the little details of how we live our lives from wake-up time to sleep time. Next. Kevin Gianni made this very profound statement, and that happens to represent the trajectory of many lives. He says, most people work hard and spend their health trying to achieve wealth. Then when they have achieved the wealth, they retire and begin to spend their wealth trying to get back their health. So if health was important, why did you sacrifice it to create wealth? And only to turn around to start spending the wealth to get back your health. The ideal will be to preserve health while creating wealth, because both are needed. Yeah? And the Holy Bible says in Proverbs 19:3, this is from the Message translation of the Holy Bible. It says, people ruin their lives by their own stupidity. So why does God always get blamed? Which means whenever anything goes wrong, whether in our marriages, or in our finances, or in our career, or in our health, or whatever enterprise we're involved in, if anything goes wrong anywhere, God is never to blame. Usually there is an element of stupidity somewhere. Something we left out that we should have done, something that we shouldn't have done that we did. Okay? Next. This is the result of a study that was done. It says unhealthy diet and lifestyle account for more than 80% of heart disease, 90% of type 2 diabetes, and more than 70% of stroke and colon cancer. They are all contracted at the dining table. Which means that if we can take control of our diet and our lifestyle, we can prevent and eliminate as much as an average of 70% of most chronic degenerative diseases from our lives. Yeah? Heath and Morgan, very profound statement. Every time you eat or drink, you're either feeding disease or fighting it. Whatever goes into your body goes in there to either fight disease or to feed disease. So what I tell folks to do is before anything goes into your mouth, please set up a panel and conduct an interview. Ask what's on your plate. Hey, what are you going into my body to do? To fight disease or to feed disease? And your answer determines whether you allow it to go in or shut it out. Very simple. Next. Now, whereas many diseases are contagious, disappointingly, health is not. Each person has to cultivate his or her own. No matter how you love your spouse, you cannot infect your spouse with health. You can only infect him or her with disease, but never with health. Each person has to be responsible for his or her own. Okay? Number 9. If all you're doing to address your medical condition is take medicines, then you're not doing enough. You see, this is how many of us have been stereotyped. We think in terms of, I'm fine, I'm good, nothing is wrong with me, I'm healthy. If I feel somehow, I go to the hospital, investigations are carried out, a diagnosis is made, a treatment plan is put up, and then prescriptions are made. I fill my prescription, I take my medication, I'm compliant. And then when I'm well, I go back to my normal way of living. And then if I fall sick again, I go back for another refill. That's how we live our lives, thinking that those pills are magic bullets that will fix our problems. But if all you're doing to address your medical condition is swallow pills, my take is that you're not doing enough. You can do much more than that. And the last food for thought before we go on into the subject is an ancient Chinese proverb. It says, he who takes medicine but ignores diet wastes the time of his doctor. We can't fix our health until we fix our diet. It all begins from the kitchen. Our kitchen can be the best hospital in the world, or it can be a poisoning center, depending on what we reel out of that place. Next. Many blame genetics for their conditions, hereditary conditions. They say, oh, it runs in the family. My grandfather was diabetic. My father was diabetic, so on my mother's side. So it's not my fault. It's in the genes. It's in my DNA. Nothing could be further from the truth from my perspective. Geneticists tell us that only about 25% of our genes are automatic. In other words, they express irrespective of what you do or don't do. Only 25% of our genes. The remaining 75% of our genes have to be triggered before they express. So it may be in your DNA, quite all right, but you have to pull the trigger for it to manifest. So if I was born into a family of diabetics, it does not mean I will automatically develop diabetes in my lifetime. I will only develop diabetes if I provide a favorable environment for the genes to sprout, germinate, and begin to express. I can keep those genes dormant till I die if I don't provide a favorable environment for it. Okay, so don't blame your genes, don't blame your parents and grandparents, blame yourself for fertilizing and watering the genes, making them to germinate and express. So, Dr. P.K. Shah was the one who made that statement. He said, genetics is only a loaded gun. You pull the trigger with your diet and lifestyle. Okay? Yeah. So, diseases are usually considered killer diseases when they claim lives a lot, so when the fertility rate is very high. But in my thoughts, I think almost any disease condition can kill, if not appropriately attended to. I live in an environment where the scourge of malaria is very rife. Thousands, if not millions, of people die annually from malaria. Malaria is such a simple disease, very treatable, but then it has claimed more lives than deadly cancer. Cancer is considered deadlier than malaria, but malaria has killed more people than cancer. So it's not the deadliness of the disease, it's not the severity of the disease, it's the way we handle it that determines the outcome. A person may have simple malaria and in a week is dead. And a person may have cancer and survive it and live 20 years after, 30 years after the cancer diagnosis. So it's not the type of disease that is the real issue. It is how we handle the disease, either by way of what we do to prevent them or what we do to attend to them when they have been diagnosed. Even so-called killer diseases can be defeated if appropriately addressed. So, in my opinion, I think the host of the disease is the major determining factor in disease reversal. What I mean by the host is what the doctor would call the patient. Okay, the person who has the disease, the attitude of that person to the disease, the decisions that the person makes regarding how to attend to the disease, those are the factors ultimately that will define the outcome. Addictions too can be broken and defeated if the host is ready to be delivered, but if the host is not ready, there's nothing anybody can do. All right. Some of the common killer conditions around are stress-induced conditions, diabetes, hypertension, HIV/AIDS, malaria, and other infectious diseases like tuberculosis and what have you. Then we have drug addiction, such as alcoholism and smoking and what have you, cancer. All of these conditions claim life a lot all over the world. And then we have some others that don't necessarily kill, but they make life very miserable, such as eye diseases, cataract, age-related macular degeneration, glaucoma. Glaucoma-induced blindness is all over the place, and it's a kind of irreversible blindness because it damages all the optic nerves that connect the eyes to the brain. Arthritis may not necessarily kill, but it makes life very miserable with a lot of pains and discomfort. Asthma makes life a little bit very discomforting. Multiple sclerosis, and so on and so forth. These are conditions that just continue to erode the quality of life and make a person's life miserable for many years without necessarily killing the person instantly. Okay? The big four that the whole world is grappling with are hypertension, which I call the silent killer, stroke, which I describe as the paralyzer word in the world today, the C word, cancer. Next. There are three models that we can adopt in relating to these disease conditions. We can have a prevention mindset, where we're saying, Thank God, as of today, I don't have any of these conditions. Is there anything I can do not to have them? That is the prevention mindset. Is it ever possible to do things now, to put up a plan now, to come up with a healthy living strategy now, such that I can prevent these debilitating conditions in my life for the future? And I submit that most of these conditions are largely preventable, most of them. I'll be sharing a few thoughts with you along those lines. The second mindset, which represents the second model, is the reversal model. If I already have it, are there things that I can do to help me reverse these conditions and get them out of place altogether? Of course, my answer again is yes. Most of these conditions can be reversed, even those that are considered incurable. For example, in the medical community, conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, arthritis are all grouped into diseases that are manageable but not curable. They are considered treatable. They can be well managed, they can be well controlled, but they may not be reversed. That's the mindset in allopathy. But I think, and I have seen it happen time and again, that those conditions are actually reversible, pretty much. And so if they are in place, there are things we can do to get rid of them. I know many ex-diabetics, many ex-hypertensives, many ex-arthritics. They are still well and alive up to today. And the third mindset is the disease management model, where we do it the way we have always thought it should be done. It cannot be cured, but it can be managed. So I'm just compliant with my medications. I take it morning, afternoon, evening. I don't default, and blah, 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 blah. That is the third model. I suggest that the first model should be our priority model. And for those who are already sick, the second model too comes in handy. And the third one is something I personally do not subscribe to. Okay, next one. So let's go back to the nitty-gritty now. How to get well and stay well. I propose 5 simple steps. These things relate to those who are well now, who don't want to get sick, and for those who are sick, who are seeking ways to get well. The same 5 steps will help both situations. The first step in recovery is to understand the causes of disease and dysfunction. Once we understand the cause, we are better positioned to prevent and probably also to reverse. And the first cause of most disease conditions is injury. Of course, when I talk about injury, the first thing that comes to mind is someone who is an auto crash, or who fell and broke a hip bone, or somebody who had a fracture, somebody who had a cut on the skin and is bleeding and all of that. That's the kind of thing that comes to mind when we talk about injury. But I want us to look at 5 different types of injuries that can actually injure our health. All those ones I described earlier come under the category of gross injury. Gross injury can lay the foundation for certain diseases. In other words, if you suffered an injury and you did not attend to it appropriately, that can lay the foundation for a future disability or debilitation. So gross injury can lay the foundation for problems. For example, if somebody suffered a sprain, the ankle, injury on the knee, maybe while playing soccer, and it was not properly attended to, 10 years down the road, that particular site can begin to develop a lot of problems. That looks like arthritis, and that's the kind of arthritis that they describe as traumatic arthritis, because that was the foundation of trauma that was laid in the past, which was not properly attended to, and then gave rise to a future problem as a person grows older. Okay? And then we have the second type of injury that can lay the foundation for disease, and that is repetitive stress injury. That relates to the kind of stress that we face, either in our line of work or the way we live our lives, that is repeated almost on a daily basis. And that stress applies to maybe a particular part of our bodies. And that part of the body is stressed over and over and over again and again and again until cumulatively that part of the body begins to get injured and then becomes diseased as time goes on. A few examples will be someone who probably is a welder. You know, when they're welding, there's this bright lights as they weld. They're supposed to wear protective goggles to shield their eyes from bright light and then from sparks that could fly from the welding. But some people become so used to welding without the precautions that the bright light begins to affect their eyes. 10 years down the road, their vision is impaired. They don't have vision 20/20 anymore because of the repeated bright light that has repeatedly stressed their eyes. Or maybe you sit in front of your computer and you walk there all the time. Or maybe you walk in an X-ray room and you're exposed to radiation over and over and over and over again, and it builds up in your system. That is repetitive stress. In every line of work, there is the possibility of repetitive stress, which we must understand in our individual lines of work and look for ways to compensate for those stressors so that they don't build up to create a problem for us in the future. You see, most high court judges who write and write and write and write and write as they sit on the bench trying to listen to the different, arguments in court, and then when they want to deliver their judgments, in those days they do longhand writing and write and write. When they retire, those judges have frozen necks and shoulders because of repetitive stress of doing that over the years. And then the third kind of injury is cellular injury, where the cells of the body are assaulted with all kinds of things that come into the body, toxins in particular, that damage individual cells in the body. When the DNA of a cell is damaged, the body attempts to repair the damage. If the repair succeeds, praise God. If it doesn't succeed, then the body attempts to destroy the damaged and irreparable cell. But if that repair didn't work, and the destruction also failed, then that damaged cell may begin to replicate and become a tumor. And then the foundation for cancer is laid due to cellular injury. So injury can lay the foundation to different kinds of diseases. Then we have emotional injury. There is the mind-body connection. What goes on in our mind predominantly has impact and effect on our physical body at the end of the day. Many diseases are psychosomatic. In other words, it begins in the mind and then it begins to affect the body. The predominant thoughts in our minds have effects on virtually every system of the body, whether it's the digestive system, neurological system, respiratory system. All the systems respond to the predominant emotion in our minds. And that's why we need to take control of our moods and our minds, because they have implications for our physical health at the end of the day. And then we have electromagnetic injury, which is a 21st century phenomenon. These days, if you put on your electronic device and check for Wi-Fi, you probably see 100 listings of all kinds of radiation, electromagnetic frequency all over the place. We literally these days swim in an ocean of radiation. And we have all kinds of devices around our lives that are emitting a lot of ionizing radiation that are impacting on our health, impacting on our mood, impacting on different aspects of our lives without us even knowing it. And these things can also contribute to injury to the body and lay the foundation for disease. So injury is the first thing that can culminate in diseases, which we need to address in our lives if we want to minimize the kind of diseases that we see in our time and day. Next. The second cause, or the second thing we need to understand about disease, is toxicity. Hello, sir.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, the second cause is toxins. Elsie Harris
It's beginning to make it.
wrote a very fantastic book titled Staying Healthy with Nutrition. So when it enters the mouth, to the time it exits at the backyard, should be 16 to 24 hours, ideally. Anything beyond 24 hours gives room for putrefaction, for fermentation, for rancidity. And that lets off a lot of toxic material that are reabsorbed into our system. And then they can toxify the body and create all kinds of imbalances and upsets that can lead to feeling sick or causing more serious conditions. So byproducts of food digestion and metabolism constitute what we call metabolic waste, and these are internally generated toxins that must be efficiently eliminated. And that's why eating a lot of fiber-rich food, a lot of raw vegetables, a lot of fresh fruits become very important so that they can serve as intestinal broom to help particularly to remove the solid waste, because we have three kinds of waste that we generate in our systems: gaseous wastes, liquid wastes, and solid waste. And all three must be eliminated in real time. Then the second source of endotoxin are infections. When a person gets infected, the infectious agents, whether they be bacteria or fungi or viruses or whatever, generate a lot of toxic load in the system, which again must be removed. The best option is not to even allow the infection to take root in the first place. And then allergies also create a lot of toxic overload in the system. Many people don't realize that. If I'm allergic to something, anytime I'm exposed to that thing, my immune system responds by generating a lot of antibodies, such as histamine, for example. And those antibodies, when they are too much in the system, are actually toxic to the body. And that's why the body begins to come up with all kinds of symptoms: itchy eyes, watery eyes, rashes on the skin, the respiratory disorders, choking and wheezing and coughing and all of those things. And then the fourth source of internally generated toxins is stress. Now, when we're exposed to stress or stressors, the body also releases corticosteroids, things like adrenaline, like cortisol, what have you. These substances are useful in the short term to address, the element of danger, either to fight danger or to flee from danger. Gives you that immediate burst of energy to be able to deal with threats against our lives. But when those same hormones are secreted chronically, long term, due to ongoing stress in our lives, then they become toxic. They begin to make us sick at the end of the day. Then we go on to exotoxins. That's toxins that come from outside the body into the body. They come from two basic sources. We have the natural ones and we have the artificial ones. Natural exotoxins, external toxins, are those that exist in nature, God-made, so to speak. And the synthetic ones or artificial ones are the man-made toxins. In the environment, we have things like the venom of a snake. It's a natural substance. It's not synthesized in the lab. It's made by God, and yet it can kill. That's an example of an external toxin. The sting of a bee, spider bites, and things like that. And then the artificial ones are the pesticides, the cosmetics, the mercury in dental amalgams, and chemical food seasonings such as monosodium glutamate, and various other things, food additives that we add to our food, either to extend their shelf life or to improve their taste. And all of these things are not nutrients. They are not compatible with our bodies. But we put them in place by necessity because we want to preserve the shelf life or extend the shelf life. We call them preservatives. Some of them are taste enhancers. And all of these things enter into the body as toxins coming from the outside into the body. Another source of natural exotoxin are the kind of things that come from foods that have gone bad. For example, I was discussing with someone yesterday about aflatoxin, which comes from nuts in particular, especially peanuts. I love peanuts, and many people do. But then many of us buy our peanuts from the store, and it's been in the bottle for upwards of 12 months before we pick it up. And those peanuts may have grown moldy without us realizing. And mold is one of the highest sources of aflatoxin. Aflatoxin has been found to cause liver cancer. And so by eating peanuts, a person can set himself up for liver cancer without even realizing it. And that is from a toxic element from the food that we eat, and so on and so forth. All right. The third cause of disease is deficiencies. So as you can see, deficiencies are of different kinds. We have nutritional deficiencies, and then we have other kinds of deficiencies. There are more than 50 nutritional factors that the human body needs to function optimally. And among them, probably the most important is oxygen. We can survive without food for upwards of 40 days without really causing any damage to any system in the body. And we can survive without water for upwards of 4 days without causing any systemic damage. But we can survive without oxygen for only 4 minutes. So oxygen becomes our number one nutrient. And oxygen deprivation, low oxygen levels, account for many of the conditions in human experience. There's a simple device you can clip on your fingertip. It's called an oximeter to check the percentage of oxygen in your blood. Ideally, it should be somewhere in the range of 98, 99% when you clip it and you see it on the screen. Many people are below 90. They are oxygen deprived. And Dr. Otto Warburg of Germany in the 1930s won the Nobel Prize. And one of the findings that earned him the Nobel Prize was the fact that he discovered that cancer cells thrive in an oxygen-deprived body, and they don't do well in a well-oxygenated body. So a person may not actually have toxins in their body, but the person may have low oxygen levels. And he says if you deprive a cell of 40% or so of its oxygen needs over a 24-hour period, that cell is going to adapt from an aerobic cell to an anaerobic cell. And that makes it become a cancerous cell, because cancer cells are anaerobic. So just low oxygen level alone is enough to set us up for cancer. And so deficiency in oxygen is a major reason for many diseases as well. The temperature range affects our health at the end of the day. That's why you see many senior citizens pass during winter months than during summer months, because the weather has implications for our overall health at the end of the day. Gravity, sunlight, even sleep deprivation. I mean, we're supposed to enjoy quality sleep for 6 to 8 hours a day. If we don't sleep that much, then we experience what we call sleep deprivation. Now, the human body needs a minimum of 6 hours in a 24-hour day to do the servicing of the engine while we are asleep. Because certain things don't happen when we are awake. They only happen when we are asleep. Many of the processes in the body are lowered to their lowest possible level. Your metabolism goes down, some antidiuretic hormones are released, and many things are brought into low levels so that attention can be shifted to other more important activities in the body, like repairing the body, servicing the body, changing the engine oil, changing the fuse, and changing the plugs. So you wake up in the morning renewed, reinvigorated, rejuvenated. So if you don't give that 6 hours of sleep, then the servicing is not complete. So you have a carryover to the next day. When you have that over a long period of time, you're actually killing yourself in installments at the end of the day. Next, we also have deficiencies in water. People get dehydrated. They don't drink enough water. When there's dehydration, that can set a person up for problems. Deficiencies in sources of energy, such as carbohydrates, proteins, and fats and oil. That's the one we talk much about. When people don't have food to eat, then we have all these refugee faces on the internet and social media. See people in Somalia and people in all those places looking like a bag of bones. That's the only deficiency we think of. But there's deficiency also of the micronutrients, vitamins and minerals and what have you. Now studies have shown that the deficiency in one mineral is capable of creating 9 different conditions in the body. Just a deficiency in one mineral can create 9 different symptoms in the body. And we need at least 60 minerals and trace minerals every single day in our diet to remain healthy. And at least 30 vital, important vitamins to also do well in our bodies. Then we need amino acids and essential fatty acids, especially omega-3, to keep healthy. Deficiencies in any of these can lead to problems. While we were all in elementary schools, probably in high school, they taught us if you're deficient in vitamin A, night blindness. Deficiency in vitamin C, scurvy. Deficiency in vitamin D, blah, 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 blah. But little do we realize that even today, as wealthy as most countries appear to be, people who are well-to-do are still experiencing deficiencies, because the way we grow our foods these days, the way we preserve them, the way we process them, either don't allow those food crops to have these nutrients in them, or when they do have them in them, we process them out, or we damage them in the course of processing. For example, take wheat that is processed into white flour. Wheat is a complete food, complete grain. It's got a lot of fiber in the wheat bran. It's got a lot of vitamins and minerals in the wheat germ, and a lot of oil, and then it has the carbohydrates in the endocarb. But then, to make wheat into white flour, what we do is we remove the wheat bran, so all the fiber is gone. And then we remove the wheat germ, so all the vitamins, minerals, and oil gone. Then we take only the endocarb, that's the one we mill into flour, which is essentially carbohydrates. And then we bleach it into white flour. So at the end of the day, what you have is free sugar, no vitamin, no mineral, no fiber, no fat and oil. God in His wisdom put everything together in one place. Then we in our stupidity put them apart. Then we bring out only what is convenient. We sell it as flour. And then to placate our consciences, we fortify with a little synthetic vitamin A and vitamin D and put it boldly on the pack. Fortified with vitamin A, vitamin D made from petrochemical, which is synthetic, which is not very agreeable to the body. So at the end of the day, we deprive ourselves of the very things that God packaged for our own well-being in the name of food processing. At the end of the day, we also add some chemicals to preserve it. And then when we grow our foods, we have a lot of chemicals we also bring into agriculture, agrochemicals. We have herbicides, we have pesticides, and today we are confronted with Franken food. We are now growing meat in the lab. We're now growing fish in the lab. Now we have genetically modified organisms. You know, GMO crops, in my personal view, is one of the most stupid and deadly things that we can do to ourselves as human beings. Because, for example, let's take GMO corn or GMO soy or GMO whatever. Monsanto Corporation has been bought by I think Bayer now, so that name has been subsumed. The Monsanto Corporation has all kinds of genetically modified crops, and then they have this herbicide that is called Roundup. The essential ingredient in Roundup is glyphosate. Glyphosate is a weed killer. Now, when they grow this GMO corn on the field, for example, they will genetically modify the corn to be able to resist the herbicide made of glyphosate, so that when the field is sprayed with this herbicide, the corn will survive, the corn will not die. But every other weed or anything around the crop will be killed by the weed killer, but the corn will not be killed, because the corn has been modified to be able to resist the weed killer. So you don't have to weed your farm, just plant your corn and then spray the whole field with this weed killer. And your field will be clean, only the corn will be growing, and the corn will do well, the yield will improve, and everything will be fine, no pests. You take it to the market, you and I buy, we bring it home. Because the corn has been engineered to be able to absorb the chemical and not die. So the corn has a lot of the herbicide that was sprayed on it absorbed into it. You and I eat that corn. We have not been genetically modified to resist that weed killer. So when we consume a high amount of it, it goes in as an external toxin coming into the body. And that is creating a lot of problems. Professor Stellini or so in France did a lot of studies on mice and pigs, where he divided them into groups, and he fed one group with organic grains, fed the other group with genetically modified grains over a 2-year period, and almost 100% of those pigs, rats, mice that were fed GMO, almost 100% of them developed malignant tumors at the end of the day. But just a little fraction of those of organic developed tumors. And when the result was published, this was a world-renowned researcher that has been hailed for decades as being an erudite scholar. But the moment he announced that particular study, they started blackmailing him. They stopped funding his research because now he has touched some economic interests, and he became blacklisted as putting up a study that was not well designed, what have you. Anyway, so deficiencies constitute the third reason that people develop diseases. So put together, if we don't injure ourselves and we don't allow toxins to accumulate in our bodies and we don't deprive our bodies of what the body needs, then we position ourselves to be able to withstand and to resist disease as much as possible. Now, let me put it this way. Deficiencies and toxicity are just the two sides of the same coin. In toxicity, we have in the body what should not be there. In deficiency, we don't have in the body what should be there. So if what your body needs, your body is not getting it, that's deficiency. That can be a problem. If what should not be in your body gets into your body, that's also another problem. So those things that should not be there, we should shut them out as much as possible. Minimize our exposure. There's no way we can completely eliminate toxins, but we can minimize our exposure to them. And then those things that the body needs, we have to consciously bring them in. Because nutrients are of two major categories. We have those that are essential nutrients and those that are non-essential nutrients. The ones that are called non-essential are so named not because they are not essential, but because whether or not you eat them, your body can synthesize them. For example, I don't have to eat or take vitamin D. All I need to do is get out in the sun. My body has the capacity to manufacture vitamin D under the sun. So whether or not I take vitamin D, my food is immaterial. My body can make it when it needs it. All I need is sunshine exposure. But then not so with vitamin C. No matter what I do, all the 4 seasons of the year, the human body cannot manufacture vitamin C. The dog can manufacture vitamin C. So it doesn't need to take it in its food. If it needs it, it makes it. But the human body cannot. We have to take it either in our food or as a supplement. So those things that the body cannot make, that we have to consciously put into our body, those are the ones classified as essential nutrients. We have to be conscious and intentional in making sure that those essential items are provided in the amount, recommended amounts into the body so we don't suffer any form of deficiency. But the ones that the body can synthesize, the body will make it. Things like cholesterol, for example. The body can synthesize its own cholesterol. By the way, cholesterol is not the bad guy that it's been made to look like. Cholesterol is good for you and good for me. Without cholesterol, we cannot even live. We can't think without cholesterol. We can't remember things without cholesterol. We can't synthesize vitamin D without cholesterol. We can't make sex hormones without cholesterol. We can't make babies without cholesterol. We can't deal with stress without cholesterol because cholesterol is used to make adrenaline, cortisol, and all of those stress hormones. So, why is cholesterol given that bad name? Well, the thing is that cholesterol is not an essential nutrient. I don't have to eat it in my food. My body can make enough cholesterol for me as much as needed. So the one I take from my food is excess. And that can build up in my bloodstream and make my blood become viscous. That can combine with other elements in the blood like homocysteine, which is an amino acid, and can get that cholesterol oxidized to become oxycholesterol. And that can make the body increase in inflammation. That can combine with inorganic calcium in the bloodstream and form plaque and begin to thicken and narrow blood vessels and cause cardiovascular problems. So cholesterol itself is not the issue. The issue is we are not supposed to be getting it from our food. The body can make all that it needs. So you keep cholesterol out of your food, and your body makes all that it needs. It's not an essential nutrient. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So this is a sample daily menu that I've come up with by way of how do we ensure that we minimize toxicity and we enhance the amount of nutrients that get into our body. This is a very simple template on how to eat on a given day. Breakfast usually should happen somewhere between 7 and 9 a.m., lunch somewhere between 12 and 2 p.m., and supper somewhere between 5 and 7 p.m. And my recommendation is that breakfast should be essentially made of raw food. Vegetable juices, not pasteurized vegetable juices, but freshly made each morning with all the food enzymes intact. And smoothies, blending vegetables and fruits together and drinking them the way God made them with no alteration whatsoever. And then fresh fruits and fruit salads and what have you. This constitutes a very wonderful way to eat in the morning. It gives your body, number one, the basic nutrients required, the calories needed, the vitamins, the minerals, and a lot of water, purified water in those fruits and vegetables, present in those kinds of things in the morning. If you're the type that also does heavy-duty jobs, you may need a mid-morning snack. Okay, this is where the oats come in and the granolas and the mueslis and all of those things around 10, 11 a.m. But most people wouldn't need that if you're an office worker, for example. And then at lunch, you start with 50% vegetable salad, organic vegetable salad, and then followed up with the other half of cooked food of your choice. In the evening, depending on your goals, if you're obese or overweight, I recommend 100% vegetable salad in the evening, maybe with some hot soup to go with it, with no cooked food at all, until you attain your ideal body weight. But if your body weight is already good, then you can do 60% vegetable salad in the evening and 40% cooked food. And that would be a good one. Then for your snacks, fresh fruits and raw nuts, raw almonds, cashew nuts, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, and what have you. All of those serve as very wonderful snacks, raisins and what have you. Next. So, did we go back? Okay, other areas of deficiencies are deficiencies in recreation and rest, deficiency in love, deficiency in peace and harmony, deficiency in faith. These are intangible kinds of deficiencies that can also lead to problems at the end of the day. We're looking at 5 steps. We just dealt with the first one, the causes of disease. The second thing to do to reverse disease or prevent disease is to identify aggravating factors. Now, every disease that is already in place can be aggravated by certain things. So, if I'm diabetic, for example, I need to find out what are the things that will make my blood sugar shoot up. Those are the aggravating factors. If I have hypertension, what are the things that will make my blood pressure to continue to shoot up, that will make it worse? If I have headache regularly, what are the things that will make my headache get worse? Whatever can make it worse, those are aggravating factors. Now, for you to reverse a condition, you have to identify the thing that aggravates it, so you remove them, so that you don't continue to pour more fuel into the fire. We want to put the fire out, so we must first of all remove all the things that fuel the fire. Those are the aggravating factors. So what are the things that make my symptoms or condition get worse? We have to be disciplined and wise enough to eliminate them. We can get rid of them. Somebody suffering from insomnia, and he cannot do without a cup of thick coffee all of the time. The caffeine in the coffee will worsen the insomnia. If someone has arthritis, for example, there are certain foods that we eat that will aggravate arthritis. The nightshade vegetables, for example, eggplant, is not particularly good for anyone with arthritis because it increases the production of prostaglandin E2, which promotes hyperinflammation in the body. We want to reduce inflammation for an arthritic patient, we don't want to increase it. So anything that can aggravate, if I have peptic ulcer, I will try to avoid the acidic fruits in the meantime. Acidic fruit don't cause ulcer, but if you already have the ulcer, they can aggravate your pain. Pineapple, for example. So I go off the acidic fruits and I go for the more alkaline and subacidic fruits, so I don't aggravate my condition at the end of the day. Okay? Those are the aggravating factors. Then the third thing to do is to look for palliatives. Okay, what gives me temporary relief in the meantime? What can stabilize me, bring things under control before I look for a permanent solution? These are the palliatives. Now, palliatives help to reduce suffering. It prevents further complications. It helps to prevent fatality. It stabilizes the person. It improves the quality of life. It helps us to buy time so we can look for the final solution. But for now, something has to be done to bring things under control. Somebody shows up with a blood pressure of 260 over 160. You don't want to say, okay, let's begin to find out why you have this high blood pressure. The person may suffer a stroke in the next 1 hour if you don't do something. So you may have to give prescription to, first of all, help crash that blood pressure back to normal. But whatever medication is given to bring it down to 120 over 80 is not the cure. It's only a palliative measure. But the mistake many people make is that once they are taking that palliative, they think they're already doing enough. And they just continue to take that forever. And that's why it will never get cured. The person continues to stay on that medication for life. Because all you are doing is, you're taking a 24-hour to bring it down. You're not doing anything to reverse the things that give rise to the elevated blood pressure in the first place. So palliatives are never the final bus stop, but they are necessary in the equation to help prevent fatality, to prevent further complications, to help us buy time so that we can do something more permanent to reverse the condition. How many more minutes do I have? 20. That's too much. Thank you. All right. Okay, so we go on to number 5 now, which is the final bus stop. Next slide, please. Okay, sorry. Let's go back here. Yeah. Number 4, before 5. 4 is the curative step. After the palliative has been applied, then how do I get a permanent cure? 3 major sources for that permanent cure. That could be supernatural. I believe in miracles. I'm a pastor. I pray for people, they get well. I've seen many people healed instantly through divine intervention. And that can be one way to get healed, to get a permanent cure. Okay? There can also be medical cure. God has given human beings the knowledge and the wisdom to be able to come up with different protocols to attend to different conditions. You may want to explore those therapies. And then natural cures also exist. And you see, the beauty is that we can actually combine all 3. And combine prayers with medicals, with natural substances, and get the best of 3 worlds, as it were, and get well. Because God is the source of all. The same God who heals instantly, the same God who gave us all the plants and all the herbs and all the vegetables. If you read the Bible says in Genesis 1:29, all these things I have given them to you for food. In Psalm 104, verses 13 to 15, he said, I've given herb for the use of man. And in Revelation 22, if you look at verses 1 and 2, it says, there's a tree that grows and brings forth fruits and leaves. He said, the fruit shall be for food and the leaves for medicine. So everything is from God. And if you look into nature, especially when it comes to natural cures, vegetables, fruits, herbs, roots, tree bark, seeds, grains, nuts, and different oils, all of these have therapeutic purposes. Some of them even have prophylactic purposes. Okay, and looking in nature, you will see the signature of God in nature everywhere you turn. God has not left us clueless. You don't even need a degree in nutrition or in herbology to be able to discern, be able to figure it out. In one of my books, one chapter there is titled The ABCD Codes, and I'll just give you a few thoughts on that. A stands for architecture, B stands for Bible, C stands for color, and D stands for delivery. Now, every fruit, every seed that you see in the garden has got its own unique architecture, its own unique shape and design. The mango, the shape of the mango is different from the orange. The orange is different from the pineapple. The pineapple is different from the carrot. The beans is different from the corn, okay? Everyone has got its own unique shape. That unique architecture is a code that God has given to us to be able to decode what can this be useful for. So if you look at the human body, you'll find that there are different parts of our anatomy that resemble those seeds and nuts in the garden. There is a principle of similarity. If it looks like it architecturally, very likely it will be useful for it. For example, in my body, I've got two beans in my body. You know what they're called? Kidneys. That's right. My kidneys is shaped like beans. There is the architectural correlation, which means that very likely beans are kidney-friendly food. So if it looks like that part of your body, very likely it will be very useful to support the health of that part of the body, and you can go on and on. The avocado pear looks like the uterus, like the womb of a woman. And studies have shown that the avocado can help to improve a woman's fertility by balancing her hormones, because it's shaped like the womb and it's ever pregnant. The avocado is always pregnant. So it can actually help to improve the fertility potential of a woman. If you look at the walnut, it's shaped exactly like the brain on the inside. And it's been found that it improves neurotransmitters in the brain, the walnut. If you look at the grape, if you see a bunch of grape hanging on the tree, it's shaped like a heart. It contains resveratrol, which is an anti-aging agent, which is also heart healthy. That's why you see some people recommend take a little wine for your heart. If you look at the orange, cut it into two, it looks like exactly the breast of a woman when you slice it on the inside. And many correlations. Look at the celery stick. It looks just like the bone here. And when you analyze the mineral profile of the celery, you have 23% calcium in celery, 23% calcium in your bone. The same percentage of sodium in celery is what you find in the bone. The same percentage of magnesium that is in the bone, that's what you find in celery. The same mineral profile. That's what we call the signature of God in nature. And those are pointers to help us to know what is useful for what part of the body. So if you bring me a kind of fruit that I've never seen in my life from out of nowhere, all I need to do is to look at the architecture, look at the shape, and then I go on to the second one, I look at the color, and then I look at the season of the year that it is delivered to us, and I can predict what that particular fruit will be likely useful for, what conditions it can treat, just by looking at those codes. Then we have the Bible code. Many of the fruits we eat today are mentioned in the Bible. Herbs are mentioned in the Bible. And sometimes in Bible accounts, they use them for different things. For example, Paul told Timothy, drink a little wine for your stomach sake. David used raisins to rejuvenate the Egyptian that was sick, was tired, that led them to the Amalekites. You remember the story of Jacob and his two wives, Leah and Rachel, and mandrakes, when Reuben came back from the farm with mandrakes and what they used mandrakes for. When you read all those stories in the Bible, the same things that they use those things for in the Bible can be replicated today. That's what we call the Bible code. And the color code has to do with the color tells you so much about that particular fruit. If I see something green, I know it contains chlorophyll. That's the pigmenting gland. And chlorophyll is very high in magnesium, possibly also in folic acid. If I see something orange in color or yellow in color, oh, this must be rich in beta-carotene. And that the body can convert that to vitamin A, and some alpha-carotene as well. If I see something purple, it contains something. If I see something red, it contains something. Something black, something blue. All the colors, you can pinpoint exactly what to find in them, because the pigments are a kind of coding that God has put in nature. They are not arbitrary. They are intentional. Red, for example, rich in lycopene. If it's deep brown, rich in iron. If it is white in color, they're rich in anthocyanins and sometimes indole-3-carbinol and what have you. So the color coding of our fruits and vegetables tell us so much about what we're likely to find inside of them. And then the delivery season. If it comes out during winter, then there are substances in that particular fruit meant to vaccinate your body for peculiar diseases of winter. If it comes out during summer, then there are some things in that fruit to help fortify your body against the peculiar diseases of summer. So the season that fruit comes out gives another indication of some of the things it could be useful for. Okay, let's go on. The final step now is after you have found out the cause, you have removed the aggravating factors, you've applied palliatives to give you temporary relief, and then you've gone for the final cure, either supernatural cure, medical cure, or natural cure, or a combination, and you are now well. The final thing to do is to institute a preventive measure to prevent recurrence. That's the mistake that many people make. Once they've been treated and they are fine, surgery has been done, oh, the fibroid has been removed, oh, praise God, it was a successful surgery, I'm healed from the surgery. They do Thanksgiving service in church, 2 years down the road, fibroid is back. What happened? They never instituted a preventive measure. They just carried on with the same diet and lifestyle that created the first fibroid. So they simply recreate the fibroid. But then once you've solved the problem, the final thing to do is, what do I now do to make sure this problem does not come back? That's the preventive measure. You prevent recurrence, so you don't recreate the same disease, and you prevent even a new type of disease from coming up again. That's the final step, which many people miss out. But when you do that, then you are in good shape. Now, if you look at Psalm 85, verse 6, the Bible actually says, will you not revive us, O Lord? It says, surely the Lord will speak peace to his people. So, but let them not go back to foolishness. In other words, after God has had mercy on our previous foolishness, we should not go back to the same things that created the first problems for us. That's how to have a permanent cure. Next. So sometimes the problem is we don't really know what to do to stay healthy, so we simply gamble. We try all kinds of things, trial and error. Other times we know what to do, but we lack the willpower to do what we know. Because some of us actually know the right things to do about healthy living, but it's just that we can't come around to do them. We all need a power outside of ourselves to enable us to do what we know we should be doing. I know I should be exercising 30 minutes at least every day, but do I really exercise 30 minutes a day? You know, I have all kinds of exercise equipment in my house, but I rarely use them. And the question is, why did I invest so much money in those things? Because I realize they are necessary. But do I really go ahead? You see, that is usually where the problem lies. And that's why sometimes we need to call upon God to come to our aid and really help us to do what we know we should be doing. We all need God. Because Jesus says, without me, you can do nothing. We can only go so far without God. Outside of him, we fail. And the bottom line is that we may adopt all these strategies that I've shared with you and succeed in living up to 120 years in robust health, but no matter how long we live and no matter how healthy we are, one day we're still going to die if Christ tarries. The question is, after death, where next? That's one question many people shy away from. They don't want to address it. I live healthy, 120 years in good shape, all my mental faculties in order, no dementia, no Alzheimer's, no Parkinson's, no Lou Gehrig. But then, one day I will still die. And when I die, I'm going to meet my Maker. What will be my end then, when I stand before him? And this is why I urge each and every one of us to reflect on this and prepare for eternity. Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, the life. And he says, no man comes to the Father except by me. Next, please. Can I crave your indulgence to please stand with me? I composed this poem a few years ago, and I'd like to share it at the end of almost all my presentations. When I was very sick and dying, and I thought I was not going to make it, I composed this poem for myself to confess it every day that I shall not die. And God honored my daily confessions. And so I share it with you today. Would you please clear your throat and let's read it together? As loud as you can. 1, 2, read.
At 50, I shall not be guilty, but I shall be anticipated. At 60, I shall not be sinning or succeeding, but I shall be strong and slim. At 70, I shall not be empty, but still full of faith and power for exploits. At 80, I shall not be overweight, but still young and great. At 90, I shall not be an entity, but with no nonsense, no delirium. At 100, I shall not be quantified success, but enjoy the prospect. At 110, I shall not pretend towards the grave, but believe the death of God's glory. At 120, I shall not be twisted by disease, but choose to see peace with all my faculties still in excellency. So help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And thank you very much for being a very attentive listeners. And I want to believe maybe some of you took notes. And if you didn't take notes, I probably want to ask Reverend if we can have this presentation. And as many of us who are interested, you can leave your email address and we can share with you. And we also, in the Shepherd's Flock International Church, first Sunday of every month, we do health teaching. We discuss very relevant, pertinent issues, you know, and when we have the opportunity, also do some practical demonstration. So thank you very much for the time once again, Reverend Tony. We appreciate you, and thank you for that very well-loaded presentation. Just following on this, I appreciate the fact that there might be questions. People might have questions to ask, and but I want to do that side by side with something else. I want to use one stone to kill 2 or 3 birds, if I can do that. Yeah. So while we are having this question and answer session, we make preparation for some snacks, some things to eat. I want to think we can do that without being disruptive, so people can go pick what they want quickly and just take your seat. And people want to ask us, "Oh, what do we think?" I think we can do it that because I'm just thinking of. Sorry, you bring it. Oh, okay then. So good. So they will bring the meals to the table. So question and answer, and then meals will be going on side by side. Right. Okay. Does anybody have any question? Am I seeing any hands at all? Okay. Somebody's at the back there wanted to ask a question. Can they might get all the way to the back there? What about a cordless one? Okay, I understand they can.
Praise the Lord. We thank God for the program because it has really enlightened us to many things that we don't know about, especially this issue of eating habit. And my question is, I want to know that for some of us that are aging or maybe growing in age, what are the recommended food or things that you can, apart from what you have had, is there any particular recommended food that we should be eating? Or what are the things that you can do or eat that can really help us? Thank you.
Okay, there is a concept that I developed that is called age-related eating or age-specific eating, trying to stratify society into different age groups, like from